We're pretty deep into the 2022 Formula One World Championship Series now, and thanks to the continued dominance of Max Verstappen, even some top-tier racers are big, long shots to take the lead. Lewis Hamilton, of course, wants to finish strong, but is also looking ahead to the future, and he's made a big demand of the Mercedes team. How is Hamilton faring in 2022, and what needs to change going forward? We'll be sure to let you know all the details in today's video, so stick around till the end. For those just tuning in, how did Hamilton's last season go? It's no secret that 2022 has been a difficult year for Hamilton, a rather complex one to dissect. That's especially true when you compare his performance against last year's F1 season, where Lewis Hamilton was still battling for the title till the bitter end. The British driver was neck and neck with the sensational Max Verstappen throughout the entirety of the F1 season. Get this, out of the 22 Grand Prix events on the calendar that year, the duo of Hamilton and Verstappen made up the top two placings at 14 of them. That is to say, 14 Grand Prix in which both first and second place were taken by one of Hamilton and Verstappen respectively. If Max wasn't winning, Lewis was winning, and vice versa. Overall, Lewis managed to win 8 of these races, including an incredibly clutch string of 3 straight wins, and he nearly made it 4, which would have meant winning all of the final 4 races of the year. That was good enough to make the standings a tie going into the final Grand Prix in Abu Dhabi, only narrowly missing out on taking the top spot in the final lap. Ultimately, he would take second place, only 8 points beneath Verstappen and a full 151 points above the third-place racer Valtteri Bottas. Now, this year, well, to put it lightly, it's been a very different season for the 7-time Drivers' Champion. So, how has the 2022 campaign gone for Lewis Hamilton in comparison? At the time of writing this video, the Mercedes driver is 6th in the overall standings. With 9 races still yet to go, unfortunately, Lewis is already out of the running for the driver's crown this time around. While Verstappen is going strong as ever and seems to be cruising his way to claiming a second straight driver's title, his rival from last season is nowhere near him. Though, to be fair, the second-place racer Charles Leclerc is a whole 80 points behind him, so it's not as though anyone else is all that close. Still, the fact remains that Lewis Hamilton has been all but eliminated from contention for quite some time with a surprisingly poor car. This was particularly true for the early Grand Prix. His lowest placement was at the 2022 Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, where he ended up taking 13th place, and by the time that result happened, he was pretty deep in the hole as far as the standings went. It begs the question, just what changed between this year and last year that caused this downturn in success? Well, there is the matter of some new regulations introduced by the FIA. One of the changes was a budget cap introduced to reduce the gap between the various teams, and thereby make for a more competitive title race. Naturally, this had an effect on Mercedes' car design. The team reported problems with their tires and a floor that came with an extreme amount of bouncing. It should be noted, though, that Hamilton has managed to rally late in the season in impressive fashion. While he still hasn't won a race this season, he did manage 3 straight third-place wins, followed immediately by 2 straight second-place wins. That's a big improvement from where he started, and if he keeps this up, he could at least make the podium by the end of the year. But that's obviously not going to be enough for a competitor of this magnitude. Hamilton wants more, and he's beginning to put pure pressure on the Mercedes team to make it happen. Well, what is Hamilton saying about the state of things? What's he demanding of the crew? Recently, Lewis had an interview with Heikki Kovalainen, the consultant for the recently emerged Viaplay streaming service and a former teammate of Hamilton's, as the two go back to the McLaren days. There, Lewis explained that they're still lacking performance, and that's where the difficulty has come from. He said, quote, "I think this car has potential, but we had to reduce the power to prevent bouncing. We have very good reliability, but we can't depend on reliability forever to be on the podium. We really need performance," end quote. Reliability is indeed one of the strengths of the German team, as its drivers have managed to finish each race so far this year, with the sole exception of the British Grand Prix. He went on to reiterate that there's a lot of potential here, but that he hopes his team is always going in to give as much aero support as possible with as little hassle as can be. Hamilton stated, quote, "It's a hard thing for the team to do, but nobody gives up. We have to admit that the others have done a better job. Their philosophy, whatever it is working well," end quote. He wasn't done, and the longer he went on, the more it began to sound like he was throwing some very specific brands of shade around. He warned the team against being stubborn and saying that the way that they do things is the only way. He felt that his train of logic could see you wait for years to see any results. He urged them to be quick, concise, and humble in the approach. He did at least note that he was positive that they would go along with his mentality shift. Hamilton then touched on conversations he had behind the scenes and the pride that everyone took in their work, reaffirming that he thinks getting a race win this year is possible and he's hopeful for it. However, he makes clear that this, by itself is not enough. Lastly, it was apparent that even though there are a number of races to go, he's already devoting a decent bit of thought to next season. He ended the interview by saying, quote, "Hopefully we will be in good position for next year. At the moment, when I talk to the team, I tell them what I don't want and what I need next year on this car. I'm trying to show them the way to make sure they deliver that next year." End quote. Any other recent news in the world of Formula One? Recently, the governing body of Formula One approved a new set of engine regulations for 2026. Does that sound super exciting? No? Well, hear us out here. For those in the know, this was a hotly anticipated development, expected by many to usher in an era of new premium Volkswagen Group brands for Porsche and Audi. In addition to this, the FIA noted that its World Motorsport Council, the WMSC, have also updated the technical rules for 2022 and 2023 in an effort to address some ongoing safety issues. Judging by the specs, it seems that the new power unit is set to retain the high-revving 1.6-liter V6, while at the same time, they will also have a significantly big uptick on electrical power and will make use of 100% sustainable fuels. Who would have ever thought the day would come that professional race car driving would go green, or even could? It's also known that the motor generator unit heat, the MGUH element, will be removed. I'm sure you knew that already. We're all MGUH experts around here, right? It's said that doing this was a demand of the Volkswagen Group brands, and getting rid of the element was necessary if they wanted them on board. The FIA released a statement about the changes saying, quote, "The regulations are intended to make it possible and attractive for newcomers to join the sport at a competitive level." End quote. Media outlets have been reporting that Porsche is keen on investing in Red Bull technology, eyeing as high as a 50% stake in the company. Red Bull technology being the current leader in building championship-caliber cars. That Max Verstappen bump continues. In other F1 news, after a string of incidents of racist, homophobic, and sexist behavior being exhibited by the spectators at recent Grand Prix, the league has launched a new campaign lambasting this kind of abuse, an initiative called Drive It Out. With the Austrian Grand Prix in particular being a major inciting factor, the campaign began in the form of a video featuring all 20 drivers, Formula One Chief Executive Stefano Domenicali, and FIA President Mohammed bin Sulayem. They each explained the importance of treating one another with respect and urged that if you're incapable of this, you're not welcome at F1 events. And that's all the time we have for today's video. Are you in agreement that Hamilton's car performance is letting him down, or is the racer perhaps passing the buck a bit by publicly talking about his team in this way? Do you expect a stronger showing for Lewis Hamilton and the Mercedes team next year? Be sure to let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And until next time, thanks for watching.